At long last, we have come to the birthplace of endurance racing as we know of today. The penultimate round of the SimRacers Asia GTE series presented by SIMMSA and the Macau-China SimRacing Association takes us through the roads of prestige here in northern France on the grounds of Le Mans. All will go down the line as round 9 goes underway here at Circuit de la Sarthe. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Apex Racing TV's coverage of Round 9 of SimRacers Asia GT Series. Alongside myself tonight, Marco Barbanera and Scott Newton behind the cameras. How are you guys doing?
Doing fine. Hello everyone, and hello Weihan. Looks like we are ready for a fantastic double header as per usual. Slightly smaller grid than usual because there's the big iRacing official 24-hour race starting basically in 1 hour. So I guess most of the drivers are busy doing that. But here we have, the 11 heroes that will take, race on this racetrack, and we have a nice little surprise for you in just a few laps. In just a few corners, as the cars are rolling for the start of race 1, Weian.
It is green flag and away we go, and it does look like Abhirafti Putra has led the field with Jasri Jali in P2 and James Foster in third. Of course, as the French aerobatic team make the fly pass away from the
That's what the sound was. Yeah. I thought there was something wrong with my sound card.
Thank you so much, Scott. Now, as you look at James Foster, as he sits in P3 now behind race leaders Abhirafti Putra in P1 and Jasri Jali in P2. They make their way through the first sector of the circuit, coming along Tetra Rouge.
We already have a slowdown for one of the BMWs, and here we go with the surprise I was talking just a few seconds ago. We have no chicanes on the Unadier straight, so these drivers will have plenty of choices of slipstream for these two races, and it's going to be super entertaining to see how they are going to approach this very long straight. Old school version of the racetrack today for these drivers.
Very much so. Of course, without the factor of mechanical failures, of course, you can go along this long stretch for as many times as you like, and it probably wouldn't do any damage to the cars here. Cameras on Ferdian Pratama as he sits in P8, and it does look like a four-way battle ensuing here with Jamal Gandun not far behind at all. So it is a slipstream battle here, kind of like a drag race down this section without the chicane, and wow, that looks like Jamal having a good squeeze between the cars of DK Lee and I believe another BMW M8 of Stephen.
Yeah, Stephen Graham, I think, can you... Oh, Jamal Gandour. Oh dear, I think he's headed for the fence there as his name is flashing in red, Weihan. And he left the picture and went straight on at Musan corner there, and that was not ideal as we move. This is Jaisrin Jali, of course. The starting, the classification you see on the left is a bit out of sorts because of the way, as Mark Lang has towed back to the pits, because of the way it works with it racing. So as the drivers there, we are finding it hard to keep it on the track, especially in this first lap. So once the cars cross the start-finish line, you will have a proper order on the left, as we see Gandour a little bit behind the rest of the field due to his mistake earlier in this first lap.
Battle for the race lead as cameras have gone to Tai Tran, who sits in P8 behind Ferdian Pratama and Stephen Grimard. As he goes out wide here at this part of the circuit, does look to be the Michelin corners. This is a tricky sequence of corners because it is a corner that relies not only on aerodynamic downforce but also your mechanical grip. So you have to set your car up right for your car to make it through there. As they come to this final sector of the Le Mans circuit, this is one part where you have to hold your breath because after a perfect lap, this is where you'll either make or break the lap time, as Taitran leads Jamal Gando through the chicanes, and cameras have come back to Abhirafti Putra, currently sitting in P5, as he leads DK Lee. Now his gap against Matt Morris sit at a whole 4 seconds. So he will have to play a little bit of catch up if he were to go reclaim his position.
Absolutely, yes. The cameras here are now on Abhi Putra, as I am trying to figure out his position, because it says he's in 10th, but that is quite clearly not right. And behind him there's the orange Japan Parts Racing Ferrari of DK Lee, which is several cars in front of him in the racing order. So trying to figure what's going on with the live timing. I see a Porsche. That's the Porsche in front of him. I mean, Weyan, how would you approach such a racetrack where you have this very very long straight, and basically you have to manage the gearbox ratio also, as well as the engine. You don't want to hit that rev limiter when you are following someone, but you also want to have good speed, because otherwise you'd be a sitting duck in this particular part of the racetrack.
Now I guess because the actual circuit does have the chicanes around, it is all about kind of positioning your car well enough in order to defend your position. For example, using the inside line as opposed to the conventional racing line to prevent drivers from overtaking you. But because this is without chicanes, using the historic layout, it is going to be rather tricky. So you do have to rely on the sheer horsepower that you have.
So we hear the voice from Scott Newton. He's trying to sort the live timing issue, and he's working hard behind the cameras, trying to sort that out.
Now, whilst Scott works hard to get the stream well set up, because now the cameras are back to the race lead, as Jasmine still leads James Foster with Matt Morris and Grand Crow right there. Not too sure what exactly they're doing back there, but it is a battle for P3 right behind, whereas Jasmine still holds onto the race lead. So Michelin and Porsche Curves, they make their way towards. Over here, it's all about your racing line and how you balance mechanical grip with aerodynamic downforce. Now, as you approach this section where understeer as you exit the corner could kind of spell danger, because this is where the balance of the car does become unsettled. They now come towards the Ford chicanes.
And I think Scott was able to solve the issue, so big thumbs up. And now we see the right order there, and we have on our hands a very nice fight for the race win. Jais Rinjali is your leader. Oh man, I jinxed it. I think Foster got a slowdown there into the Ford chicanes, and he will be probably overtaken by Morris, who will jump up to second place. Really, really punishing racetrack, this one, for slowdowns, Weyan. Not much for... no, it's... yes, it's easy to get an off track at the very end there at the Ford chicane, but it's really a track that relies more on punishing you with slowdowns, and that can be extremely costly, especially when it's in the first few laps of the race, and we have just seen that. So Jazrin Jali gets a little bit of breathing room now, as we have seen over the years in the official series. Porsche seems to be the preferred car today, as we see the top four all Porsche 991 RSR, with Jolly, Morris, Foster, and Crow, with I think there's a lone BMW there in fifth place.
James Foster and Matt Morris and Grant Crow seem to now be having a battle of themselves as Jolly has just pulled a huge advantage ahead of positions 2, 3, and 4. A masterful driving by the Master Jolly himself in this grey YLab Motorsports Porsche as he sits 3 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. Three-way battle here currently led by James Foster, but it is switching between Grant Crow. This is going to be a drag race with Matt Morris taking a slipstream from either car as they brake, making their way through Nagi Corner. Of course, this braking zone is rather tricky because you are in fact braking whilst turning in. Now as they come back into a single file.
Yes, single file. It seems like Foster has been able, sorry, we have to jump back to second place, but of course the damage has been done, and now these three guys here need to work together, I think, if they want to go and catch Geyser Jolly there at the front, because he is very, very quick. And I think Foster is the faster of these three guys, but he needs to, work at the front, give a tow, just like, should work like in cycling, more or less, being there at the front of the group, the front of the peloton, even though it's only three cars, so I can call it that way, and try to push everyone, or bring everyone with him and try to catch Jolly there. They can do it because there are a lot of slipstreaming, especially in this configuration of the racetrack.
Very much so, because even as there are rather various corners that come along the way in the first and last sectors, slipstream still will play a part as aerodynamics are factored into the way the cars perform. As they make their way through the Porsche and Michelin curves, they come upon this section where then again it is going they will hold their breath as they prepare for the entry into the Ford chicanes. Not exactly the best overtaking zone here, so I would not expect to see much cars making their moves here, because this is where the cars go very slow and the balance does get thrown off quite a little bit.
It's a 3:35.0 for Abiputra there in 5th place in the Beamer. You see him there. And that's the fastest lap of the race so far, so we cannot count him out for the race win now in race 1. A reminder that it's a 25-minute race. We are with 11 minutes 20 seconds on the clock. So you're not going to do a lot of laps, especially around a racetrack this long. But it's good for Abi, because of course he got that big slowdown in the first lap, and especially in the first lap, and to a lesser extent in the second lap, the slowdowns in Eracing in general are really punishing. So he is certainly trying to fight back, and now closing in slowly but surely on Grant Crow in 4th, as Foster and Morris are trying to break away from the 4th placed ISR SIMMSA driver.
These cars making use of the slipstream because it is an extremely long backstretch, as we've just seen Grant Crow make the move along the outside for the 3rd position ahead of Matt Morris. So of course they've got another half of the Malzahn Straight right ahead for them to make any more moves. It does look like Matt Morris and Abhirafti Putra are now having another battle of their own, back down in positions 4th and 5th.
Seems like we've lost Morris, unfortunately. He has disconnected from the room, so probably a connection issue for him. He was running very good in the front of the field, so bad luck as we move on board with Abiputra now. He's up to P4, of course, thanks to this problem for Morris. So now he will be certainly on the lookout for the podium position, especially if Foster and Crow start to fight, and this will also, of course, help, as we have said earlier, Jolly, that is looking good for the race winning race 1. And of course, as per usual, the final order of race 1 will be also the starting order for race 2. And this is the penultimate round of the season. We will round up the proceedings next week, same time, at 12 GMT, and we will be live from Road America for the final event of the season. Ferjan Pratama, the second of the Ferraris, trying to pass the leader of the Ferraris, and that, of course, is in front of him, DK Lee in 6th place, and these two drivers very evenly matched so far in this race.
Sure they are, with 6/10 of a second separating them as they've just made their way through Nagi Corner. Because over here you have a good mix of, in fact, many different kinds of corners. High speed corners that rely on downforce, and also lower speed corners that rely on your mechanical grip, and it depends on however well you set up your car, which determines how well you do over here. As they make their way through the Porsche Curves, because this is where, once again, the weight of your car will kind of be thrown between the left and the right. So this is where you have to be careful in order to balance balance your way through the corners. Down to gear 3 as he makes his way down. Yes, exactly right. Over there, it is easy to go quite wide through that exit. And they now make their way through the Ford chicanes.
Oh, and Pratama
is
heading for
to the pits. Yeah.
Oh, the trickiest pit entrance in the business, I'd say. That is very surprising. Know what's going on with Ferjan's car. By the way, while we investigate it, I can tell you that the fastest car of the top 4 was once again Abhi Putra in that BMW in 4th place. So he is certainly trying to put on a comeback as we jump back to the 2nd place battle, James Foster and Grant Crow. And you can see, I think, in the back of the shot there, the BMW, I think, got a slowdown or something, because he's all of a sudden very slow. Side by side for 2nd place once again. What a nice battle they are having.
Fantastic battle here without the chicane to break the flow of the run down here along Mao Zedong Strait. Drag race between James Foster and Grant Crow, and it could be anyone's race, but it does seem like James has the edge as they make their way through this part of the straight. Grant just dipped a little bit inside there to gain a little bit of slipstream, but they now head to this right kick, which may prove to be a little bit of an advantage for James. As they now come towards the near end of the Mao Zedong Strait, they will begin the entry into Mao Zedong Corner.
And I'm seeing a disappearance from the timing tower. Oh, contact between the two Porsches. And sadly, Crow is in the wall. So I think that will be... Oh, and also I think big damage maybe for... I see Foster crabbing a bit, but that might be the way the camera is pointing at the car. Certainly, Crow has got some damage. It seems like the onboard is all good with Foster. So at the same time, Abhi Putra dropped all the way down to P10 and down into the pit. So maybe he had contact with the wall. That's why he was so slow coming into the Unadier Strait. So we need to investigate that as well. Some damage to the rear wing, and James Foster, you can see, struggling to keep the car on the track. But unless he has the dreaded meatball flag, he should be good. Of course, now Jamal Ganduru made a mistake in the very first lap. Is now back with a chance for a podium finish because he's up to P4, and of course Grant Crow will have to deal with a very, I imagine, damaged race car for the final 8 minutes or so of this first race of the day.
As James makes his way through the Porsche Curves again, because with not too long left to the end of race 1, Justine is still the race leader, and James currently sits in P2, Grant Crow in 3rd, and Jamal does seem to be quite a distance behind, so I think he will have to work doubly hard if he wants to gain some more ground. As James makes his way through the 4 chicanes, yes, very easy for you to go airborne there as you jump over the curbs.
You can see, of course, very slow compared to Jazrin Jali, 39.2. Let's see Grant Crow, 48.2. And let's see Ganduru, of course, is, like you were saying, lagging a bit behind. Of course, I don't know the state of his car, because I saw him go off in that first lap, at Musan, and he went straight on, you know. So I don't know if he hit the wall or not. So let's see how it progresses with him. Seems like it's a matter of bringing the cars home for these top 3-4 guys. I have, big hopes for the second race, but this first race, unless we have some sneaky meatball flags for Foster or Crow, which could cause them to be disqualified if they, do more laps than what the maximum is 3 laps. I think. Oh, DK Lee has got some issues as well. I think he's pointing in. Oh, I think he also hit the wall there with his Ferrari number 91. He's sitting in the top 5 in the middle of the corner there, in the middle of the racing line. Oh wow, that's a bit strange for a GT car. I think he didn't hit the wall, by the way. Just stopped in style a millimeter away from the fence. Didn't lose position, but now, as you can see, Steven Grima, Weihan, is closing in and might, put him under pressure for that 5th place.
Now these drivers have the extent of the Malzahn Strait ahead of them, so Steven could have he could be able to kind of close the gap, but then it is still quite wide because just over a second separates them, and DK seems to be pulling an advantage ahead of Stephen. Now DK sits in P5, and that seems to be a couple of positions down from where he began the race. Of course, at such a big circuit with a not exactly a big field tonight, racing does happen to be a little bit sparse, so racing is kind of more concentrated and condensed down to a couple of cars racing with each other, opposed to what we saw last week at Bathurst.
Oh well, that was a crazy round, and drivers, I think, got their all their aggression, out. Which is uncharacteristic for this championship, to have such big aggression on the racetrack. It was so much fun. Now today they have the chance to maybe relax a bit, even though those moments where we had 3-4 cars battling for the slipstream on the backstretch here on the Uno Dier straight, it was quite stressful, I might imagine, for these guys. So, but then race 2, of course, still to go. So who knows what might happen? And it seems like we are heading into the final 3 minutes of this race. 22 minutes will be on the clock quite soon. A lap is around 3 minutes and a half, 35-ish. So I think we might be in. This might be the final lap of the race, the one that has been started by Jason Jolly. Even though my math skills are terrible, so probably it won't be, but we'll see.
Charlie waltzing his way through the first sector of the circuit just made his way through the Dunlop chicane and over here to the Eracers. Now the first sector is kind of characterized by corners that require aerodynamic downforce and also with elements of elevation changes, and also topping that off with a Tetra Rouge, where it is important to maintain the momentum of your car through, because this sets yourself up for this extra long Malzahn Strait that takes you all the way to the next half of the circuit. Jali, 9 seconds ahead of the second place driver, James Foster, so I do think he is rather comfortable at this stage.
It's amazing the amount of time that the racing community has waited for Le Mans, and now that we have it, I'm always amazed when I drive at my very slow pace around this racetrack, especially here on the Malzahn Strait, at the amount of detail that they put into this racetrack. And if you once again go at my very, very slow speed that I usually have around this racetrack, you can see on the left and on the right side a lot of you can see, for example, there's I think the Leroy Merlin, there's KFC, McDonald's, and if you look there on the right, also at the very beginning of the straight, you can see a football stadium, which is a very, very big stadium. of a team that plays in the third division of French football, and you might ask yourself, why do they have such a big stadium to play, basically in the semi-professional leagues? And that is because they got relegated and they had big financial trouble. So now they are playing in that massive stadium against teams that have 5,000 seat stadium. So the Le Mans Football Club, of course, with red and yellow as their colors. Once a very proud team in the French football scene, and now fighting their way back. They have been in that bad financial position for quite some time. But it's beautiful to see their stadium. I mean, their stadium is there and not in any football video game that I know of. So amazing, absolutely amazing. The amount of detail in this racetrack by Eracing.
iRacing goes to extraordinary lengths to reproduce whatever content that they're able to get their hands on. And Le Mans, this circuit is one of those, I guess, kind of one of their masterpieces alongside the Nürburgring. Now, of course, this is how we kind of justify the need to kind of spend what we spend on this hobby of ours here on iRacing. It's always nice to have content that you enjoy, and as we're just saying that Jali crossed the 4 chicanes for the final time of race 1. He comes along that final corner, exits the chicane in spectacular fashion, and comes along the start-finish line. He wins here, race 1 at Le Mans. And James Foster unfortunately lost the edge against Jali. He comes home in the second. And Grant Crow, of course, Grant not having had the best drives here tonight at Le Mans, he comes home in third.
Seems like that damage on the rear wing popped back into place for Foster, so it wasn't as bad as we thought. Gandour will get fourth. Grima trying his best to close up to DK Lee for fifth, but I don't think it will be enough, as we see in the chat people that actually know the Le Mans Football Club. So hopefully, seems like my little story wasn't as boring as I thought it was when I was going through it. And the only other guy we are waiting is going to be Ferjan Pratama. He's sitting in P7 and should be. He's a bit behind. I remember he was fighting with Tikeli. He headed for the pits. I don't know why. We don't know why, but he is, of course, now looking at a 7th place start. Of course, the big question is, will Putra, Morris, and Tran, will they be able to start in the second race that is due to start, by the way, immediately after the end of this first race, as we are just waiting, basically, for the YLab Ferrari to come to the finish line, and then it will be straight once again to the gridding process for this SRA GT Series Le Mans round.
What has been quite an interesting race 1, despite I guess the grid, the size or strength of the size of the grid. What am I saying? 11 strong will continue their way to race 2. At least that appears on our timing screen. Race 1 winner Jasmine Jali will also begin from pole here in race 2, and James Foster will begin alongside him on the front row. Grant Crow and Jamal Gandour will take the second row, taking positions 3rd and 4th. DK Lee and Stephen Grima take row 3, and Ferdian Pratama and Mark Lang will begin from 7th and 8th. Abhirafti Putra, Matt Morris, and Tai Tran will round out your your starting grid of 11 here tonight at Le Mans.
So I have good news. We will have Abhiputra for the second race. Bad news is that he crashed while peeking at his desktop through his Oculus to increase the Spotify volume. So, I mean, I once crashed in a broadcast race here on Apex at Bathurst because I was looking at JRT and crashed. But this takes it to a new level. But good, because it means that Abby will be back with a vengeance in the second race, and it shows how focused you have to be. Now you might ask, why is he racing with Spotify? Many good drivers, in fact, that race with Spotify music on the background. For example, very, very good LMP1 driver and sure protagonist of the Le Mans 24-hour today and tomorrow. Patrick Wolf, he runs with Spotify in the background all the time, listening to K-pop. So that apparently makes you go very, very fast.
Yeah, it does kind of put you in the mood for ultra performance. Of course, it's always about optimizing a state of mind, and music does, I believe, help with that. The cars make their way through the Porsche Curves. Of course, right now they're taking it slow, but later on, this will be a section where the cars will be literally pushed to their limits, physical limits, depending on how well the cars are set up. Jolly will lead the field through the four chicanes as the French aerobatic team likely going to make their fly past for the second time tonight. I had no idea the airbase had that many stunt planes, but regardless, engines are quite loud as the safety car comes to this section. Marco, I'm going to allow you to begin race 2, my friend.
Thank you very much, man. As you can see, the Porsche pace car getting teleported towards the pit lane by a very, very good AI driver. As we are getting ready to go, they are very, very, very tightly bunched all together. As you see, the four Porsches leading the way. Gotta be super careful to avoid contact. As you can see, some drivers already flashing their headlights. And here we go, the green flag is in the air for race 2 of the day here at Le Mans with Jaisrin Jali, Crow, Foster, Gandour lead. This is your top 5 as they are heading into the first chicane. And yes, the French Air Force getting double duty today, as you can hear in the background as they brake very, very hard for this first chicane. Seems like everything went well.
Of course, now they make their way through the S's. A combination of high speed, right, left, as well as elevation changes here. It demands absolute precision. As we just said, that it does look like Jamal has gone out wide, and that might cede P4 to DK Lee. Now these drivers are going to make their way through Tetra Rouge as they find the right speed, a sweet spot to make their way through this corner. Jasrin leads the field.
2-3 wide.
Oh,
No, not
3
wide. No,
there.
no, Gandour is having a massive slowdown. That will put him all the way to the back of the pack. And that is absolutely a shame for Jamal, because I think he has the pace for a podium today, but sadly, mistake in the first lap of race 1, mistake on the first lap of race 2. Luckily for him, since like this time he will be able to keep the draft of the pack, so he might come back, but that of course it's not ideal. As you can see, Abhi Putra really on the prowl, trying to gain more positions and make amends for his mistake in race 1.
This slipstream led by DK Lee, but it is wow, it is going to be a 3 wide, isn't it? Led by Stephen Grimmer here as he goes alongside Abhirafti Putra with Verdia Pratama not far behind at all. Without the chicanes in the way, of course, these guys can put the pedal to the metal where it should belong in order to unleash the full horsepower of these cars without the fear of mechanical failure. James Foster leads the grid of 11 strong, and I think 9 at the moment racing through Nagi Corner, the right-hander, as they now come to this second half of the circuit. Jasrin probably a move along the outside with Grand Crow in the slipstream of Foster. And this is going to be a drag race down this section as they prepare for their entry into the next corner, which I can't remember what road it is. Thank you, Scott. Indianapolis corner coming up. It's going to be a right-hand entry here. James Foster edging out Grand Crow. Jasrin.
Oh, Krause, I think is in the wall. I think he touched the wall there on the right side, down to 5th place, maybe 6th, as Pratama has gone by him. So hopefully he didn't hit the wall there, but as you can see, it only takes a small mistake here, Wayan. He was so close. I think he wanted to avoid contact with the car in front of him and had to lock the brakes, and hopefully he only went straight and didn't brush the wall, because you don't want to get any kind of damage to your car in a racetrack that you want to have the least drag possible around here.
Grand Crow drops to P6 owing to that little scuffle he had with the other car earlier on, and he is currently sitting in the slipstream of Ferdian Pratama as they make their way out of the Porsche Curves and prepare for the entry into Fort Chicane. Abhiravdi Putra leads this field as well. It does look like DK Lee is on fire back there as one car of them made the entry into the pits, I believe. Over the curbs of Fort Chicane goes the rest of the field here as they begin yet another lap here at Circuit.
Yeah, Ferjan Pratama heading for the pits once again, I think. Or maybe just moved out of the way, I don't know, but I saw his grey Ferrari, entering to the pit lane. So, but he's now back on the track, so I don't know what was going on there. See the blue BMW of Steven Grima, Grand Crow, trying to make a comeback. But of course, with such short races, the comebacks are quite tough. But still, of course, he wants to get to the podium. As the BMW goes wide, the Porsche goes even wider. And side by side, I think is going to be a big slowdown there at Tertre Rouge for Grima. And yes, he is down to P5. And now I hope to clear that slowdown as we move to the lead battle. Foster and Jolly, side by side. And right now, it's the Martini Porsche on the inside.
Because these cars are ultimately made for a circuit like these, like this one, being of course endurance GT cars. Drag race here, it is going to be James Foster who has a little bit of the edge over Jasri, as of course these cars are made to go so fast at a circuit like this one. Jasri Jali seems to have been left in the dust for a little bit, but it is still a fair drag race here as they do still have quite a few some miles, or rather some distance before they prepare for the entry, which they do now through Macau Corner. James Foster, your race leader, as he sits ahead of Jasri Jali, having just made their way through Macau Corner, and on the road to Indianapolis, left-hander, they make their way.
Now it's Ferjan Pratama, who uses a little bit of a shoulder barge, as behind him Lian Kandur. I think they both went straight on at Mulsanne. Yes, and you can see they're making some parking maneuvers to get back onto the racing surface. And they are still battling third position whilst they try to get back onto the racing surface. But yeah, Pratama, I think, gave the position back to Grima, but now wants to take it again, as it seems like the Ferrari is a bit faster than the BMW as they go through Indianapolis.
Now, if we may, let's just have a look at the replay of the incident that unfolded earlier on between Jamal and probably DK Lee, if that's going to be convenient. Yes, we have here DK Lee leading Gandour into this corner.
Oh! It was a big hit, almost like... and then, 1-1. Seems like Jamal either, broke too late or maybe misjudged DK's braking point. Either way, he sent that Ferrari flying into the gravel trap, and the Ferrari, trying to get back into the proper racing surface, gave him a little bit of a hit as well. So, and they are still fighting, by the way. They are super close to each other, even though I think especially DK Lee's car must be quite damaged, because that was a pretty big hit.
Both drivers seem to be back for more action as they go tussling with each other through the exit of Ford Porsche Curves, and now onto the entry into the Ford chicanes. Well, this is going to be quite interesting as they make their way over the curbs of the chicane.
By the way, sorry to interrupt you, Wayan, but Abhi Putra, out of nowhere, is now in second place. Let's see what happened here. Maybe a slowdown for Jali there. Look, he moved on the right side of the track, moved out of the way. And so we have Abhi on a comeback drive, making amends for his race one mistake. He seems determined to make amends for that mistake by winning the race, and he's certainly looking good with his BMW, trying to stop the Porsches from their complete domination of this racing round at Le Mans.
The winner of race 1, Jasrid, has been kind of relegated back down to third. So this leaves the contention, or rather the battle for the race lead, to both James Foster and Abhirafti Putra. Now, only what looks like 4/10 of a second separate both these cars, so it could still be anyone's race at this time as they go full speed down the Mao Shan straight here. James going on a defensive as he takes the inside line. Abhirafti Putra turning in as well to take a bit of that slipstream advantage, and let's see what move they're going to make next. Abhi along the outside. This is going to be a maneuver along the outside. Wow. With
It's too deep.
I guess he made the move a little bit too early there, maybe taken a little bit too much speed along the outside. So James Foster still holds on to the race lead. Charlie and Crow in the background, third and
as we say thanks to Marca Vieira for following us, subscribing to us on YouTube. So thank you very much. Hopefully you are enjoying the broadcast. Of course, don't forget later today at 18 GMT, we have the final round of the Euro V8 Supercar Championship from Snetterton, a triple header with the title still on the line. The race is still on the line here as well, because Putra hasn't lost contact with Foster, and with 50 minutes left, there's still plenty of time for the BMW driver to put a move on his Porsche rival there, as they are so close and also pulling away despite their battle from Jaisin Jali, who has not found the same pace he had in race 1 apparently.
of course Putra on a comeback drive after his Rift debacle cost him his race back in race 1. Just looked like his rather aggressive racing line that he has through these corners, the Porsche Curves. Of course, this is one place where you can push your car, but do not push it too much, or the corners will bite. Onto the Ford chicane, they come once again. It is still James Foster leading Putra through, but nothing stands between them as it could be for any one of them here as they begin another lap.
Another lap, yes, starting now. There is nothing between these two drivers as they break for the first chicane. So close to each other, of course. The Ford the Porsche a little bit trickier to stop. But better on the curbs. The BMW all around a better car. A more stable car, but a little less good maybe in terms of traction. I'm hearing from some of the drivers that drive it. Super careful here not to get a slowdown on the left side as they go now down the backstretch. The Musan straight, as you can see, the gears now up to 6th for Abhi Putra, and you can see the gap quickly coming down thanks to the slipstream effect and the speed. Absolutely unreal, getting close to 300 kilometers per hour. Almost at the rev limiter. You can see the lights on his display on his dashboard, basically flashing red just for a second. And I think it will be a case of outbraking your opponent here for Putra if he wants to make the move.
Putra glued to the rear bumper of Foster as, well, matter of fact is that both cars are already at the top speed limit. It is going to be rather difficult for either one car to edge up against the other. As we just said that, there is no gap between them as we just have a look at Putra making the move along the outside. Now this is going to be a drag race, top speed run down into the entry of Nagi Corner. Who is going to brake first? It does look like James Foster has braked first, and Putra has braked a little bit later, but same mistake as previous lap. I think he has braked a little bit too late, unable to carry the speed momentum advantage through the corner. James Foster still your race leader.
Yes, great defending there from James. Abhi needs to, brake a little bit earlier, but that of course means that maybe he wouldn't have, if he did so, a better exit. So maybe he should think about making the move in another part of the racetrack. who knows? Certainly, he can also try it. Oh, wow! He's very wide, very, very wide in Indianapolis, in the gravel trap. And he loses some precious time and now falls into the clutches of his teammates. So I was talking just about Putra putting some pressure on Foster, but this time it was the opposite. Putra clearly trying everything he could do to take the lead of the race, and he ended up making the mistake. So now he is 1.8 seconds behind the race lead with 12 minutes, 11 minutes, let's say, to the end of the race. So let's see if he has the pace to close in on the Porsche, or if Jolly will take a shot at his teammate for second place.
Marco, I can't help but notice that there isn't any faults here at the race tonight, because usually here this is where Ford versus Ferrari, the kind of competition hit its peak, but over here we are seeing a majority of Porsches and BMWs battling each other.
We are, absolutely. This has been where the great rivalry exploded, when the original Ford GT came to fruition. A car basically designed to beat Ferrari, at their own game, and Ford were successful in doing so. And the same happened a few years ago when Ford came back to GT competition with the Ford GT that we sadly are not seeing today. No one is racing it, but yes. Also, I mean, there was a beautiful commercial produced by Ford to introduce car among the things, speeding at a ludicrous speed of and to Ferrari and their rivalry.
I do apologize. I did face some audio issues just now. But thank you for telling us the story between Ford and Ferrari, which unfortunately isn't able to be kind of relived in so to speak here at round 9 at Le Mans. Jamal Gandour Racing just made his way through Tetra Rouge, and he is also preparing for his entry into the Mauzan Straight. He currently sits in P6, and he is does look like he is 9 seconds away from the next closest car in front of him, Ferdian Pratama, in P5. Top speed run down here, but then again, Jamal does not have any car within proximity to provide him some slipstream, so he is kind of stuck at this top speed of 289 kilometers per hour as he makes his way down this classic Mauzan Straight without chicanes.
Of course, the very existence of GTE, and not very existence, but GTE is a class that is facing a little bit of a crisis, especially on the world stage, on the WEC stage, because Ford and BMW are pulling out of competition at the end of the season, which is in 2 weeks, of course. I think they will still be around in IMSA competition, but still, FIA putting new rules that fuel flow limit rules on GTs for next season in the WC, and that seems like the some of the reporters are saying that might be a way to encourage, or let's say force the car developers to move towards the new hypercar regulations, which are still a big if, with I think only a couple of manufacturers committed. And so the future of sports car racing, of course, sports car racing will always be around, but the WEC seems more and more like, to me, a failed racing series. And we are still having, for the second year in a row, the supposedly the biggest race of the year in terms of sports car racing, and we already know the winner, which is never good, of course. So, but also the FIA is really pushing for these new hypercar regulations, which present a lot of problems. Of course, the basically requirement of having hybrid, which I am a fan of hybrid technologies. I'm not a fan of how much they cost, and this basically takes out of the equation any kind of privateer effort or semi-official effort. You need to spend big, you need to spend a lot, and so the LMP1 class is in a bit of a crisis. The GTE class has uncertain future. The LMP2 class is in the best shape it has been in quite some time, and at least personally, I find the battle for LMP2 win at Le Mans much more enthralling than the battle for the P1, if we can call that a battle. And also, I follow series where the LMP2s are protagonists much more closely than the WC, for example, the European Le Mans series, or of course, the IMSA series with their own version of the LMP2. But sadly, that's the only car I think in Eracing that is not really up to date. We have a very, very old LMP2, and there are no plans apparently to have a new car on the, at least on Eracing in the next few years. But it seems like my rant will be over very quickly because Jaisrin Jali is now putting his teammate Abhi Putra under some big pressure. And despite Foster being only 1.5 seconds in front, it seems like the two YLab drivers will fight it out and ignore maybe the possibility of, maybe they know or they ignore the fact that they are maybe in fighting against each other. They could give a big helping hand to Foster there at the front.
Let's hope team models do not come to play here. Although the relationship between these two drivers, Putra and Charlie, do appear to be very cordial at this time. Both of them are friends and teammates, and they do have the highest regard for each other. Likewise for the drivers here at the rest of the rest of the field here in SimRacers Asia. Jali in P3 as he sits just 0.3 of a second behind Abhirati Putra as they make their way through Indianapolis for this short shoot before breaking hard for Nagi Corner. Now this is one corner where you have to be careful because there is no positive camber, there is no banking for you to carefully carry the speed of your car through. So along the exit, you'll have to be careful with your throttle application in order not to spin the car. Now, as they approach this section where they probably prepare for the entrance into the Porsche Curves outlined by the Michelin wall over there, which you'll see right now here. This is where this is where they'll push their cars to the limit because this is where the way your car is set up will determine how well you steer your car through the corners. Of course, both drivers have done so perfectly well. But Abhirati Putra has pulled.
Oh, I got a slowdown now. Slowdown for Jali. White flag is in the air, Wayan. And all of a sudden, by the way, Abhi Putra is once again on the rear bumper of Foster. So we might have a very tasty final lap of the race with the fight for the win. And now Putra has this big plus of not having Jali on his rear bumper anymore. So it's a straight 1-1 fight, one more lap to determine the winner of race 2 here in Le Mans. By the way, if I can finish my rant very quickly, if the FIA, the ACO really want the top class to be more of a instead of being prototypes, they want them to have resemblance to the real life models, and they want them to be fast, and they want them to have the hybrid. There is already a platform that allows to do all of that. And that is, of course, the Class 1 regulations, the GT 500 regulations in Super GT, which have worked with hybrid until 2016 with the Honda having a hybrid engine. You could have front or middle engine, so everyone can put the engine where they want. And they are there, and they don't have to spend a ton of money on the car because they're silhouettes. And you can make them look like, the cars you want to sell to the very rich guys on Mondays. So, but we know FIA and the ACO, they don't want to, they want to get their own ideas instead of using someone else's. As Abhi Putra, I think, got a slowdown as well, or is very, very slow. I don't know what's going. Maybe some fuel issues. Think that we have a very very weird slow, or maybe just he's fighting once again with the fuel consumption, or he's changing the volume on Spotify once again. I don't know, because he lost all of a sudden almost 2 seconds to Foster there at the front of the field.
I can just picture him
He
as he just hit the
killed the
cone
cone.
there.
That's a slowdown.
Yeah.
He killed the cone.
Not exactly. If you don't run over the cone, maybe just a brush of the cone, it should be fine. These cars are now beginning to compact again. Now, with not much time left, as they've completed half of the Circuit de la Sarthe here, they will come along this section of the circuit once again. Cameras down to Jamal Gando as we do him some justice here at the final lap of race 2. He is currently sitting in P6 with kind of nobody in the vicinity at this time. Of course, he's this right there, Mark Lang in P7, who has had I'm not exactly sure how to describe his race other than the fact that he's driving at his own pace and he's enjoying every moment of racing here along the winding roads of De La Sarthe,
And apparently has a big fan club in the chat demanding we put the cameras on him. So hopefully, the Mark Lang fan club is happy. We are happy to have him in the race and on the cameras. As the drivers are approaching the final few corners, Foster will win the race. Who gets second place because Putra and Jali are so close to each other.
As they do the final maneuvers.
Robot voice.
I do apologize.
As we are trying to get back the human version of Weian, cars approaching the final corner. Easy back. Oh, Putra is pitting.
I had no idea. James Foster over the curbs of Ford Chicane. He went for the final time. He will come across the start-finish line and he will win race 2 here at Le Mans. A last-minute move up to P2 goes down to Jasri Jali, and I think Abhi Putra knew that his race position would count, so I guess he went into the pits at least to secure a podium finish. Grant Crow, what's ostensibly, or rather quite apparently, will come home in P4 as we've gone to have a look at Ferdinand Pratama as he makes his way through the winding corners of Porsche Curves earlier, and he prepares for his entry into the Ford Chicane. Let's see if he rides over the curbs of the Ford Chicane, because this is where the balance of a car can be unsettled. He does so perfectly, and he comes along the start-finish line again. Jamal Gandour, because the Lord has had quite a night of drama here at Le Mans, and he comes home in P6. We're just left with Mark Lang, and we shall observe. I guess we do have some time with him on the camera as he makes his way through the second half of the circuit.
That BMW doesn't look very straight, but it has a very nice livery. Also, it's interesting when he crosses the line to see what happens with Putra, because my understanding is that he may got a slowdown, didn't clear him, he hit, and then he went to the pits, but if he crosses the start-finish line before getting into your pit stall, you get the penalty, and that's a one-lap penalty. So we shall see. Because I don't think it was if you want to do, move out of the way for your teammate, you don't go into the pits, you just, pull, park, and then start again. So let's see what happens when Mark crosses the start-finish line in this very, very damaged BMW, front and rear. And here we go, Mark Lang finishes the race. And now we shall have the final results for the day. Seems like he's already gone to P7, so apparently it is all good for... No, it's not all good for Abhi Putra. He's down to P6. Yes, here we go. James Foster is your winner. Jali in second. Crow promoted to third place. Then we have Ferjan Pratama, Jamal Kandur, Abhi Putra in sixth, getting a 15-25 second penalty, more or less. Or maybe even bigger. Mark Lang in seventh. And then the retirees are going to be DK Lee and Steven Grima, with sadly Matt Morris and Ty Tran not being able to take the start of the race here in race 2. And as per usual, we have not as per usual, we have very, very quickly, unusually, we have a driver ready for the interview, so if you want, we can have a word with Race 2 winner James Foster.
Yes, we shall. Well, look, my brother just brought in a pack of waffles, so I'm tempted to have a quick bite. I can't reach it. Never mind. James, I hope you've been having a good evening yourself. Congratulations on winning race 2 here at Circuit de la Sarthe. Fantastic performance all night long, James. Please share with us the race from your perspective.
Thanks a lot, mate. Yeah, from my perspective, a lot of pressure from the cars behind, and it was very strategic, sort of how to handle Mulsanne. Like, I'm not used to running the circuit without the chicanes, so that was a bit of a surprise to me when I turned up tonight. But after changing the setup and everything, it was just a matter of positioning your car in the right spot. And when they did make a move, using the side draft to build up your speed. So whoever did get a run on me, I sort of made it difficult for them to maintain momentum just by using their car as a draft to increase my speed. But I was disappointed after the first race because I felt I didn't cut the chicane. And then I got a small penalty which put me out of touch with the leader, but is what it is. Obviously ecstatic with this result.
Right, sure thing. Well, the thing is, this circuit, at least on iRacing, is kind of well known for the kind of surprises in the form of, black flags with slowdown penalties that seem to appear at every single corner if you're not careful. Because I understand that the layout was quite a surprise to I guess not just yourself but quite a lot of drivers, because the moment I loaded up the sim, when I didn't see any tire barriers along Mulsanne Straight, I knew something was up, and sure it was up. The classic Mulsanne Straight itself. Now I'm just glad to know that the race did kind of turn out in your favor, at least for race 2. Now,
Yeah, there's a lot of parts of the track where, like on the exit of the Porsche Curves, there's actually quite a large curve there that you actually see them use quite a lot in real life. You got to be really careful. On iRacing, they're extremely strict, so I was being careful on the exit of everywhere. Obviously, I wasn't the only one who ran into some issues. I know on lap 1, the leader going onto Mulsanne cut the corner, and was unfortunate for him as well. But yeah, I just tried to be a lot more careful in the second race and then just maintain position. So yeah, really happy with it.
that's great to hear, James. Now can I just hand you over to Marco if he'd have anything he'd like to ask?
Yes, hello James. Once again, congratulations for your victory in race 2. Next time around, we will round up the proceedings in Road America. In a sense, similar track to this. We have some long straights, some fast corners, but also we have elevation changes and any kind of corners really. In a track that I would say is a bit more similar to Spa, of course, than to this one. So, what are your thoughts about that final round of the season in Road America?
Yeah, I'm hoping to be competitive there as well. Obviously, you got those heavy braking zones at the end of the straights, the first one of which is a bit downhill. So you've got to be careful there for people making big lunges. But yeah, as you said, there's a lot of elevation changes that, especially on turn-in, that can unsettle the car. So it's a tricky one to set up. And you've also got the long right-hander at Speedville going into the last sector. That's very hard on tyres and the front end. So you've really got to set the car up to turn well. So yeah, I'm hoping to be competitive there, but I'm also expecting some very fast competition.
Well, James, thank you very much. Before we let you go, anyone you would like to thank?
Yeah, just you guys for putting on the broadcast, and for Mark Lang for putting on the league. Yeah, and a shout out to my brother at home watching, Edward Foster, and Gail Foster. So yeah, we're all happy with this result. Yeah, that's about it, I reckon.
Well, thank you very much, James, and once again, congratulations for your race victory. Catch you next time then.
Thanks, guys.
This was James Foster, winner of race 2, and now we have, well, we would love to have Aragorn, son of Arathorn. We don't have him, but we have the next best thing. Jamal Gandour here in the interview booth, and he's with Wei-An.
Absolutely, Jamal. Welcome. Salute,
Hello.
rather. We're in France. Yeah. Just a sec. I have to get a quick bite of this chocolate waffle that my
Yummy.
I tried to make my question to James as long as possible, so you could have the chance to eat the waffle.
I
but
do apologize.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, it just came in that I think the circuit was this because Mark accidentally did not select the layout with chicane. So, well, I guess that was that. Jamal, hope you're having a good late afternoon over in Lebanon yourself. Of course, I understand you had quite a night of racing here at Le Mans. Incidents here and there. So, please tell us the race from your perspective.
Well, I had the car prepared for the chicane. Similar story to everyone, I think. But just in practice, and I found out that it's no chicanes layout; it's the historic layout. So I had to fiddle with the back end of the car, so I would gain more top speed on the straights. But that turned out to be a bad idea. I've messed up the whole setup and the rear balance of the car. So I had plenty of problems with braking, especially at Maison Blanche, Tête Rouge, and even on Mulsanne Corner. So so it was a disaster, one of the hardest cars to drive. But and I was a little bit silly during race one. I went 3 wide with people. I don't remember who was on my sides. 3 wide was a bad idea, but I had a run and I couldn't hold the car on the brakes at Mulsanne, so it was that. I think I brought a little bit of fun to the not so large grid this afternoon. Race 2 was not so clean as well. I had an incident with Lee that I'm terribly sorry for. I've waited for him to pass again, and later on he disconnected or something, and that was it. I had to settle to what I got, and that's it.
Yeah, fully understand. Of course, races here and there, it's not all the time that the circumstances do play in our favor. And yeah, I guess what might have happened for example was that your setup, I guess, because we all didn't have that much time to respond to this sudden layout that we were faced with, kind of had affected the outcome of the race. But nevertheless, the racing was I do find that the racing to be quite enjoyable to watch and call. And of course, your presence here made contributed to the racing here tonight. Now, can I just hand you over to Marco if he'd have things to ask you?
Yes, I just wanted to ask him about the season in general. With just one round left, what are your thoughts about the season? With 9 rounds now in the books.
Well, I really like this championship and the series and how it was built, and I like the community in general, and I'm a community guy. So to me, it's a sweet spot to have to Asia having a championship. I really would like to thank everyone who's been working on it. Even the track selections has been very good, and the attendance is better than last year, which I also took part in, excluding this round, of course. But overall, it's very, very good compared to previous seasons. I wish SimRacing Asia to become even bigger and larger in terms of attendance and people who's competing. So we would elevate the show and mark a point in the sim racing world for our whole region.
Well, thank you very much, Jamal. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
I would like to thank Wei-An, Marco, Scott, and everyone who's responsible for this championship. I'm really excited for next week at Road America, which is a track I really like. So see you then.
Thank you very much, man. So this was Jamal Gandour, and now I think we have one more interview, Wei-An, and we should have Ferjan Pratama, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you very much, Jamal. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
I would like to thank.
Yes, it would appear that we do. Although it does appear that, that there's a little bit of audio feedback. Ferdian is here with us tonight. Hey, hope you're having a good evening over in Indonesia. And of course, we did find that you had a quite a good race here at Le Mans. So, could you please share the race with us from your perspective here?
Okay, from the first race, I think I had a big mistake on the fuel because when I realized the fuel is not changing on my car, so I had to pit to refuel my car. So that's a big mistake because I using a qualifying fuel. And then after that, I got a little incident with, I don't know, the blue BMW. I don't know, and I feel that's a little incident, so I did not have to worry about because the car did not break too much, so I can continue my race. With the race too, I think I got a mistake because the penalty got hit me, and so I got to go back for a while. So after that, it's just a high speed race, and actually also had realized the track is not the chicane, is the classic straight, and I don't know how to set up the car, so I always had a mistake on Porsche Curve and Numation Blanc. So I don't know how to handle with that, so I have to slow my car more than the others.
Oh yeah, I understand because I think what happened was that when the server was being set up, I do believe that there was an error somewhere, and I think this layout was not initially intended to be like that. But then again, the layout as such it was tonight without the chicane. It did bring us some kind of good racing action that we did enjoy watching and calling. And of course, you were part of making the racing action nice to watch here. So we thank you for that. Of course, we the thing is the kind of the outcome of the race does vary from time to time, and it's not all the time that things will be in our favor, as it happened for quite a few of the drivers here tonight.
Yeah, there is a lot of action on the straight, so I can make a move anytime I want. So yeah, I really glad to join this race tonight.
Well, great to hear that, Ferdian. Now can I just hand you over to Marco if he'd have anything he'd like to.
Yeah, just I wanted to ask you as well about next round, Road America, of course, and how are you feeling about that?
I don't know because Road America, I ever raced on Road America once in R Factor 2. Because I don't know the layout so much for the turn. I think it's the elevation for the turn one is really going downhill, and I don't like I don't like it at all. So let's I hope I don't make a mistake on that track.
Ferjan, thank you very much. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
I want to thank you for the you guys who broadcast this race, and the racers who race and race very cleanly and very good. And I want to thank you personally to Ananto Budi Prabowo who watched the race, and that's it.
Thank you very much, man, and catch you next week then.
Okay, good night, guys.
And that was it, Ferjan Pratama with us in the interview room, finished in P6 in this second race of the day. Weihan, I think it's time for the usual shout out to our fantastic sponsors that make this possible and let us help us to push out the broadcast on a weekly basis.
Absolutely, Marco. SimRacers Asia GTE Series 2019 Season 1 is presented by SIMSA and the Macau-China SimRacing Association. SIMulation MotorSports Affinity, as it's otherwise known, believes in providing a state-of-the-art e-racing platform as well as racing simulators for the e-racing fans out there. This affinity was established in the year 2015 by experienced racers, directed at providing a dedicated ground where e-racers from around the globe can participate and compete with each other. Their approach is focused on broadening the e-racing community on an international scale, along with offering incomparable consultancy services and guidance assured to take your e-racing and esports to the next level. The Macau-China SimRacing Association, first officially registered in Macau and Southeast Asia by a group of passionate and experienced sim racers, intent on developing the sim racing scene in Macau to another level. Now, the association acts on developing potential sim drivers to represent Macau to compete in the national and international series. Both the Macau-China SimRacing Association and SIMSA are part of the International Sim Racing Federation, and we are, as ever, grateful to have them on board to present this series.
And I am absolutely grateful to have had you on board for these 9 rounds, Weian. Of course, quite possibly this your final broadcast with us for quite a bit. And let me tell you, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you back for this SRA GTE season. And honestly, I'm already counting the days back to when you are back with us. So thank you, man.
Oh man, it has been my honor as well, to be alongside yourself and Scott. The team of us who kind of carry this broadcast week in and week out. It's only been memorable for myself, and I've had only the best fun doing this with you guys. So I really thank the both of you guys, and also everyone who's been behind this series, racing, watching, and just supporting us. Also at Apex Racing TV, for making all this such an enjoyable experience for myself. So I thank everyone for that.
And since we are getting towards the end of the broadcast, I will leave you the honor of wrapping up things tonight.
Thank you, Marco. Now, on behalf of Scott Newton and Marco Barbanera from opposite ends of this part of the world, I'm Chan Wei-Han, and it has been such a pleasure to present this series to you guys. On behalf of the team, we wish you a good day ahead, wherever you may be in the world. Have a good